That would be my practice
Yeah,
problems
yeah. There's
and
sometimes
getting
that
bored by.
I dreamt with your voice already. Like, see,
Really.
it's like 4 hours a day. Like, okay, I know.
It's funny you mentioned that because I've had students who've told me that Wasim, I've heard your voice in dreams.
Yeah.
One
Yeah,
of my
I mean,
students.
it's 4 months, what, 20 plus hours a week. You gotta, know that this is helping you not only get to pass the exam, but actually try to learn, try to understand what's going on, and this would help you a lot. And the other thing is that even if you feel like you're not, that you don't want to study, or in the case of the races, train that day, a 30-minute session for that day, just to kind of like keep that day going. And I know, no, and I'm pretty sure it's a time constraint because again, if you're not a good test taker, it's probably answering things fast.
Hi, Otoniel.
Hey,
How's it
how you
going?
doing, Wasim?
I'm doing very well. It's good to have you back on my YouTube channel. When we did the interview last time, you had passed the FE exam. And I think within less than what? What's the timeline? I'm forgetting the timeline. When did you pass your FE and then when did you pass your PE?
Yeah. Well, thanks. First of all, thank you for having me. It's great to be back. Yeah, the FE. Let me see if I have this correctly. The FE I passed in 2022. If I'm not mistaken. I I wanted to do PE. I passed on. I think it was April or March, something like that. And I no, it was February actually because it was my birthday. I remember that. And I tried to do PE the next year. I wanted to do it in 2023. So I started studying, and then some personal stuff got in the way, so I had to postpone it to 2024. So yeah, 2 year gap between the two the two of them.
How was that 2 year gap? I mean, life happens, right? Personal, professional reasons and whatnot. Things don't always go according to our plan.
Right.
But how was your experience in terms of not being able to cash in on the momentum from FE? And how did you keep that goal alive? I mean, once you pass FE, there's no reason why you should hold yourself back, right? Unless you change careers.
I'm sorry, what, I didn't hear that. Why shouldn't you what?
Once you pass the FE exam, there's no reason why you should hold yourself back from taking the P exam as soon as possible. In your case, there's like life events happening. But I think the only scenarios where I've seen people dropping the ball after passing the FE is if they change careers, right? If they're no longer in engineering, like if somebody wants to do something else, right?
Oh, okay. That's interesting. No, I've never seen that.
So in your case, how did you keep that goal alive? That okay, I am halfway through my journey. I still have to take the PE. And what was your state of mind until you had passed the PE exam? Because you know that you have certain achievement, but it is not the real deal yet.
Right, right. Yeah, exactly, exactly. No, no, I understand completely. Yeah. So I guess in my case, like the issue that I had, or like the situation that I had to kind of like stop studying for the PE was out of my control. So that kind of like helped, uh, not lose all the motivation, if that makes sense. However, coming back from like a year absence, I guess, in the studying process, and like the first 2 months of getting back into studying for the PE, oh my God, that was so difficult. It was just trying to get everything back, or trying to get the routine back, the, kind of like the discipline, like the consistency of getting back into like 5 to 7 day week studying plus working, right? So definitely difficult. I want to say that having the course really helped because it, besides the lectures and the actual information that you get from the course, the structure of it helps you keep that discipline and consistency throughout the study process, right? um, so when I ended the FE and I started the PE, I studied for 4 months. My goal was to do 6 months, like the first time. It was going to do 6 months and then take the exam. At the fourth month, this thing happened, right? Like I don't want to get into it, but like the situation happened, and I had to stop. But I didn't feel ready because I remember, I think I was between finish the course at a later time or actually taking the exam with with that knowledge that I had. I didn't finish the course, and I felt pretty confident with the amount of progress that I've done with the course that I didn't want to, like I felt like if I didn't finish it completely, I wouldn't be ready for the test, which I think, thinking back to it or like in retrospective, I think that was a good call.
I think so too. I remember we exchanged a couple of emails about it,
Right.
and I told you that, let's, just like your FE with me, let's make it one and done, right?
Right.
You don't
Exactly.
want to be in a repeat situation.
Yeah.
E exam is a difficult exam, take some extra time off. And I think you requested for course extension and whatnot. So I think that was a good call.
Yeah, no, that's right. And again, I appreciate that a lot. That was very helpful because when I started in that was again 2023, and by the end of 23 I started studying. So in 2023 November I started this like the second my second study session for PE, let's call it like that. And it was only 4 months, but I already had a lot of the course, um, kind of like the course information ingrained, if
Yeah,
somehow
because you had gone through
in my
some of
brain.
it already. Yeah.
Exactly. I've gone through like 70% of it. Like I haven't gone through like a lot of the course, so I just had 4 more months of studying, and I really felt like very like ready, um, yeah. So I guess that's how I kind of like kept the momentum going, or like the situation in general. And once I started with the second part of the my PE study session, it was a little bit easier, but it's still kind of like frustrating when you have to work as well, and kind of like the time management and everything.
So let me extract an observational lesson for people who are watching this, that things don't always go according to plan, right? There are a lot of people, and initially maybe you had that vision as well, that I'm going to start studying for the P power exam. I'm going to give it 3 to 4 months, and I'm going to be done with it in 2023, by summer 2023, early 2023, or end of 2023. But life happens, right? We are all humans. um, Personal reasons, professional reasons, health reasons, financial reasons. I've over the years come across all different types of scenarios. People have lost their jobs, people have lost their loved ones, people have had heart attacks, divorces, births, deaths in the family, relocations, all different types of scenarios, right? And most of these are not in our control. So the important thing, the other lesson I want to extract from your journey, your trajectory, was that you never gave up, right? As I said, very few people give up after passing FE, but you did not get in that cycle of procrastination
Right.
where you're like, oh, I'm going to put it off. 2023, it didn't happen in 2023. Let's half-heartedly try in 2024, if not 2025. I'm still young. I've been out of school for like, in your case, like 4 years, 5 years, Otoniel?
The out of school 4 years.
Yeah,
Right.
4 years,
4 years.
right? So there are people working around me who have been in the industry for 10, 15 years and they still don't have the PE. What's the rush for me, right? I'm still a newbie, right? So you can always convince yourself not to do the hard work, right?
Right.
Or
Right.
not to do the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
You can
but
always
that's
like
impressive.
find a reason not to do it, or like I guess an excuse would be
Exactly.
better.
Now, on a side note, I know that when we did your YouTube interview for FE Electrical, right, the success story, I think either during the interview you mentioned or maybe offline, you were also preparing for a triathlon or Ironman or something, half Ironman or something like that.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. So I already had two races since then, two half Ironmans, and I think you were talking about how things get in the way, right? Like health issues, and I think like this type of things like the PE or even like the races teach you how to deal with those events. Like for example, I had 2023. One of the things why I had to postpone as well was because I got injured. So I had to postpone the race. Now I got a surgery. I'm dealing with a surgery here in the shoulder. I actually just took my sling off for the
Okay.
interview. I
Okay.
just
Thank
had
you. Thanks
surgery
for that.
like 3 weeks
Appreciate
ago.
it. Yeah.
which postpones, like postpones the race, and it's out of your control. Like there's stuff that you simply can't control. Um, and but you, like you said, you just don't give up and wait for kind of like recovery and
Roll along with it. It's interesting. Earlier this month, I did an interview with one of the other students, and he was a 1990s graduate, right? He had been out of school for almost 3 decades, right? More than 3 decades, actually. And he was a marathon runner. He is a marathon runner, right? And one of the things that I realized is that if you have that, and some people are just naturally, their predisposition is that they have perseverance, right? I mean, they're able to stick to a goal and then pursue it, pursue it, pursue it, right? So a lot of it is really a mind game. Okay, at the end of the day, you have to show technical competency, right? It's not a mind
right,
game during
right.
the exam, of course,
Yeah,
but pushing yourself through those pain barriers, right? Where you don't feel like studying, but you have to, where you don't feel like waking up early in the morning, but you have to, where you feel like you have nothing to give towards a study session at the end of your full day of work, right? And you may have issues going on at work, deadlines and whatnot, but then you are still opening that book, listening to me on my lectures, right?
yeah.
Trying to do my practice
Yeah,
problems
yeah. There's
and
sometimes
getting
that
good
I,
by.
I dreamt with your voice already, like in my sleep.
Really.
It's like 4 hours a day. It's like okay, I know.
It's funny you mentioned that because I've had students who have told me that Wasim, I've heard your voice in dreams.
Yeah,
One
yeah.
of my
I mean,
students,
it's 4 months, what 20+ hours a week,
yeah,
with the lectures. So it's
yeah,
it's a lot. It's yeah, it's a commitment, like you said, and it's having a bad day and then the next day keep at it.
keep at it. Exactly. You cannot pull back because the issue is that as soon as you cave into the temptation of pulling back, right, it becomes so much more difficult, right, to get back on track, right? Because think about it, you are working through, let's say hypothetically, like nec. It's a 8-part lecture series in my program just on nec. You remember introduction, conductor sizing, ocpds, motors, transformers, working spaces, junction boxes, raceways, right, grounding. So if at any one point, and these are not Mickey Mouse lectures, right? In the on demand, I'm just talking about, they're about half hour at least on average, correct?
Yeah,
And then the live training sessions that we did for NEC, each one of those sessions was 4 hour long.
yeah. Those were hard.
But just NEC, we are talking about like 15 plus hours of content, not to mention the quizzes and the practice problems and the homework assignments and the mini exams, right? So you are, give or take, dedicated about 20 to 30 hours just on one topic, right? And it happens to be a heavy topic, and that's why we put in so much time and effort. But if you fall to the wayside, get off track at any point, it is very difficult for anyone, I'll speak for myself, to sort of regain that momentum that you built, right? So it's very, very important, just to keep at it, exactly as you said.
Right, right. I think one of the main things I learned from the course and like my study session and also from even the races, because you can put those things together. Like they're similar in terms of effort and consistency, discipline, and whatnot.
And the
Is
outcome, and the
and
outcome
the
as well.
outcome, correct? Yeah, is that you gotta focus on the process too. Like it's you get too um focused on the goal and you get frustrated, desperate, or whatnot, or unmotivated even. um, you gotta know that this is helping you not only get to like pass the exam but actually try to learn, try to understand what's going on, and this would help you a lot. And the other thing is that even if you feel like you're not that you don't want to study, or in the case of the races, train that day, a 30-minute session for that day, just to kind of like keep that day going,
Just to
uh,
stay warm,
and
just
just
to
to stay warm. And then
yeah,
the next day you just go at it. Like kind of like that was my mentality. Like don't get frustrated if you're not able to do every single day like perfect, because you're not gonna be able to do that. I mean, I wasn't, at least.
Have you played tennis or squash?
I haven't. No, I have problems with
Okay.
my shoulders, so I cannot play that.
So in tennis and squash, I played both of the games. I was never good at either of them. I was sort of mediocre, decent at squash, but tennis is so much more difficult than it looks from the outside, right? Just to get your serve proper, it's just so difficult. Uh, when you have a break in between, especially in a squash session, and I guess people who play basketball or any sort of sports where there is a huge burst of energy, right? Power sports, and then you start, stop, start, stop. If you have a break in between, it takes so much time for the body to sort of warm up again, right? So if you take into and the whole dynamics of the game can change drastically. Like I remember squash games where sort of I was leading, and then we take a break, and the other guy kept on practicing, was still in the court, and just tossing the ball around and whatnot. And when we came back, because I had taken a break, I had won that particular set. When I came back, I was just so cold. It's difficult.
That's yeah. I feel like a lot of analogies you can get from sports, similar to that, where you just have to keep yourself warm to get to that, or to keep in that mental state.
State of mind. Yeah, that state of mind is very important. Now, for your P Power exam preparation, how long was your journey? So you started end of 2023, right? And if I'm not mistaken, you took the exam when?
I took exam in March, but you mean just like the last part, right? Like the second study session.
Second
Or you
study
mean like
session
the
I'm
things?
talking
Yeah,
about,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because it was sort of, yeah, disconnected, right?
yeah. Right. Yeah. So started in November and took the exam in March. Yes. So it was what, 4, maybe 5 months, 4 months.
Yeah. And did you reschedule the exam when you got started with your
Yeah,
second phase of?
yeah. I had to reschedule to kind of like the late that date was the latest date for like the year.
Oh, okay, okay. So it was basically in that last cycle, the last day of that cycle.
I didn't want to open a new.
So you put in tons and tons of effort. I mean, we did your YouTube interview, and I think that anybody who is watching this far can understand that Otoniel is not the guy who looks for the shortcuts, right? You were putting your heart and soul into it. You asked me, I don't remember, man. Like you asked me probably over 30, 40 questions
Yeah,
over the course of the preparation. You were showing up to the live classes as well. So obviously put in.
and the thing to add to that, I'm actually I am like that. I feel like I am like that because I don't usually. Well, I thought that I don't know anymore, but I wasn't sure I was a good test taker.
Mhm.
And I think the course prepares you for that and actually teaches you, because to me that was kind of like my main concern, I guess, that I've never done good on tests.
I think you're overly worried because in all of my practice exams, right, when we had the Zoom call, you had above average scores, and I told you that
Right.
you're going to
No,
pass
and
the
I think
exam.
that's because of the preparation in the course. What I mean is
Yeah,
that I had to do everything because I felt that way, and
right.
the
And
course
that's
really
good.
helped with
That's
that.
good. I think in the long run, this type of attitude where you're never sure of yourself actually prevents you from sort of being complacent, right? I would rather be in a situation where I am a little bit unsure of myself and I'm always, striving rather than being, feeling overconfident then and then the result not working out in my favor, right? So that's great. How was your exam day experience? Like overall, how did you feel about the exam? You thought that when you walked out, you thought you had it in the bag, or you were sort of
Okay, so my exam experience, the testing center was better than the FE one, and that doesn't have to do anything with it. But I remember like getting there, but there was a lot of people there, so that I kept my cool a little bit better. In the FE, I was like there was like 4 people there, so I got a little bit more nervous. I don't know why. Um, I also was already, because of the FE, I knew what to eat, drink, stuff like that. That was, I think, very important for me. And then in terms of the exam itself, I felt strange. It was just like a strange feeling because I thought I did pretty well because of like I had a lot of time to go back and check. I answered every question, stuff like that. But then in every question, I realized that I could have answered. There were like a couple of answers that were correct.
curveballs?
So I was, yeah, so kind of like curveballs. So I was, let's say, in every time I answered my like that question, I was like around 70, 75% sure that I was the correct answer. So I was confident, but not, not like, oh, I I made it. When I exited the exam. So I feel good. I feel better than the FE. The FE was difficult in terms of, I don't know, maybe it was like the first time taking this type of test, and like the study process, 6 hour, 8 hour.
It's time constraint as well, right? Because what I typically find with students who have a little bit of exam anxiety, right, like yourself, uh, I find that under time pressure, and FE is really a time pressure game, right? PE is not. PE exam is you have plenty more time. They are the only ones, students like you who have a little bit of exam anxiety and time constraint issues. They are the only ones who consider FE to be more difficult than the PE exam. Everybody else, 90% of the other people, who are comfortable taking exam under sort of time constraint, find PE power exam a lot more difficult than the FE electrical. That's just my theory.
And I know, no, and I'm pretty sure it's the time constraint because, again, if you're not a good test taker, it's probably answering things fast, right? So the PE, it wasn't that it was easy, because I don't wanna say it's because it's not easy, and it's not easier than the FE because it's more comprehensive. But given that you get a little bit more time, if you study correctly and you know your stuff, it's easier to feel confident.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree. No, once again, many congratulations, Otoniel, on this wonderful achievement. And you have stayed true to your goal, committed despite the setbacks over an extended period of time. And it was never your plan. Your original plan was never to take the FE in 2022 and PE in 2024, right? Because I think very soon after you signed up for you passed the FE exam, I think within a matter of a couple of months, if not weeks, you had enrolled in the PE Power program, right? After taking a little bit of a break over the summer, I believe, something like that. And then you took care of the obstacles and whatnot, and then continued working towards your goal. And even when you started your P power preparation, you had to stop in between, like at 70% mark, and then you started again, right? So your journey is one of start and stop, but you always had the eyes on the prize, right? So, which made the difference, I think, and got you the P license, got the exams out of the way um, within just 4 years post graduation, which is amazing.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I think that was exactly the case, where there's always that in my mind, like the ice in the price. During the whole process, it's like, uh, I may not be able to take it this year because of this and that, but I'm gonna take it. Eventually, I'm gonna take it, and it's not like procrastinating and pushing it over. No, it's like, this happens, doesn't matter. I'll fix this first, and then I'll go back to it. Yeah, definitely.
And those of you who are watching this interview, trust me, like this is like high level approach mindset that Otenil is mentioning. And this is not just, what's a new trend these days, like visualization. Okay, I'm gonna get there, I'm gonna get there, right? And then you you imagine things happening and they just happen. There's a ton of effort that goes into this process, right? A lot of sacrifices on personal front, social, friends, missing out on things. And those of you who a lot of my students who are physically active and want like to hit the gym, and your outdoor activities and these races and whatnot, in most of the cases you have to either outright say no to them, right, or just significantly reduce the level of commitment, which for someone who is used to doing that as part of their lifestyle is not easy, right? So don't just go ahead.
Sorry. I was to say it's not easy at all, and I mean, I'm grateful to have a lot of support. Shout out to my girlfriend Ali, who
Great.
stayed
Oh,
good
it's
with me.
it's difficult for everybody around you,
For
man.
every
Like
for
when you're taking
everybody
this
around,
exam.
definitely.
Yeah, you sometimes, I've had students who've told me that Wasim, when I'm studying, and sometimes students are coming from other programs or have been studying on their own, or may not pass in the first attempt, right? And then they carry that weight forward, that okay, I borrowed, let's say, 4 months of so much flexibility from my spouse, from my girlfriend, from my friends, from my parents, and everybody sort of came together to help me. And now here I am at, back to the drawing board, right, starting all over again, right? Which, I mean, is it puts excessive pressure on the individual as well, and things don't always work out according to plan. I've had students on my YouTube channel on this success story where they attempted the exam once, right? It didn't happen, but they didn't give up, right? And within a matter of few weeks, few months, right, they were back at it and got it done. So congratulations on having this achievement, taking care of it, so early in your career, and I'm sure that is going to pay you a lot of dividends down the road, Neil.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate it. I hope so. Thank you for. I mean, thank you for your words. Thank you for your support. Definitely, the course is great, but I feel like you as a teacher, as a as as a student, it's a very good relationship what you have with your students, or at least with me, right? I'm going to speak from my behalf, but it's good to know that you're available when needed. I mean, obviously not all the time, right? But it's very cool to see that. Okay, you schedule a meeting with me and we can go over this, or we can go over your exam. You have any questions? Email them to me. Blah blah blah. So, that's a lot of support. That's a lot of time. So really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Dr. O'Neill. I try to extend that to every single student. I onboard every single student personally and take personal interest in their preparation and like to see them starting from FE all the way until they get their license. Thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you.
If you like this video, then please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Feel free to ask me any questions in the comment section of this video below. You can find tons of success stories of my FE Electrical and PE Power students over here. And if you want to learn more about preparation of FE Electrical and Computer exam and the PE Power exam, then check out these playlists over here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon in the next video.